Welcome back. You know the drill at this point. What the heck was that crack? Well, welcome back, everyone. So today we're on to, well, 39 of Genesis. You know the drill. Like, share, and subscribe, and we're going to get this started. Because I've been distracted for way too long, and it's already going to be 5 o'clock, so I might as well get this started now. when Joseph was taken when Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased by uh, Potiphar, Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Potiphar was the captain of the guard for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. The Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of the Egyptian master. Potiphar noticed that noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him giving him success in everything he did. He It pleased Potiphar, so he soon made Joseph a personal attendant. He put him in charge of the entire household and everything he owned. From the day Joseph was put in charge of the master's household and property, the Lord began to bless Potiphar's household for Joseph's sake. All his household affairs ran smoothly, and his crops and livestock flourished. So Potiphar gave Joseph complete administration responsibility over everything he owned. When Joseph there, with Joseph there, he did not worry about anything except the kind of food to eat. Joseph was a very handsome and well-built young man. When Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him with lustfully, "Come and sleep with me," she demanded. But Joseph refused. He told her, "My master trusts me with everything in the entire household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has he has held back nothing from me except you. Because you are his wife, I cannot do such a wicked thing. It would be such a great sin against God." She kept putting pressure on Joseph day after day, but he refused to sleep with her, and he kept out of her way as much as possible. One day, however, no one else was around when he went in to do his work. So she came out, grabbed him by his cloak, demanding, "Come in, come on, sleep with me." Joseph tore himself away, but he left his cloak in her hand as he ran from the house. When she saw that she was holding the cloak, that he had fled, she came she called out for her servants. Soon all the men came running. "Look," she said, "my husband brought me this Hebrew slave to make fool of us. He came into my room to rape me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream, he ran outside and got away, but he left his cloak behind with me." She kept the cloak till her husband came home. When she was told her story, the Hebrew slave was brought into the house, tried to come in and fool around with me, she said. But when I screamed, he ran outside, leaving his cloak with me. Potiphar was furious when he heard his wife his wife's story about Joseph had treated her. So he took Joseph and threw him into the prison where the king's prisoners were held, and there he remained. But the Lord was with Joseph in the prison and showed him his faithful love. And the Lord made Joseph a favorite with the prison warden. Before long, the prison warden put Joseph in charge of all the prisoners over everything that happened in prison. The warden had no worries because Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him because everything he did to succeed. Sometime later, Pharaoh's chief, cupbearer, and chief chef offended the royal master. Pharaoh became angry with these two officials and put them in prison where Joseph was, in the palace of the capital of the guard. They remained in prison for quite some time. The capital of the guard assigned them to Joseph, who looked after them. While they were in prison, Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker each had a dream one night, and each had its own meaning. When Joseph saw them the next morning, he noticed both of them looked upset. Why do you look worried today? He asked them. They replied, we both had dreams last night, but no one can tell us what they mean. Interpreting dreams is God's business, Joseph replied. Go ahead and tell me your dreams. So the chief cupbearer told Joseph, I had a told his dream first. In my dream, he said, I saw a grapevine in front of me. The vine had 3 branches and began to bundle and blossom, and soon it produced clusters of ripe fruit, grapes. It was I was holding Pharaoh's cup in my hand, so I took the cluster of grapes and squeezed juice into the cup. Then I placed the cup in Pharaoh's hands. This is what this is what the dream means, Joseph said. The 3 branches represent 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift you and restore you to your position as the chief cupbearer. And remember to do me a favor when things go well for you. Mention me to the Pharaoh so he might let me go out of this place. For I was kidnapped from my homeland, the land of the Hebrews, and now I'm here in prison, but I did nothing wrong to deserve it. When the chief baker saw that Joseph has given the first dream such a positive interpretation, he saw that he said to Joseph, I had a dream too. In my dream there was 3 baskets of white parsnip stacked on my head. On top of the basket contained all types of parsnip for the Pharaoh, but the birds came and ate from the basket on my head. What does this mean? Joseph told him, the 3 baskets also represent 3 days. 3 days from now, Pharaoh will lift you up and impale your body on a pole. Then the birds will come and peck you away at your flesh. Pharaoh's birthday came 3 days later and prepared a banquet for all his official and staff. He summoned his chief cupbearer and chief baker to join other officials. He restored the chief cupbearer to his former position so he could again hand Pharaoh his cup. But Pharaoh impaled the chief baker just as Joseph predicted in his interpretation of his dream. Pharaoh's chief cupbearer, however, forgot about Joseph, never giving him another thought. Two full, 2 full years later, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing at the bank of the Nile River. In this dream, he saw 7 fat, healthy cows came up from the river and began grazing on the marsh grass. And he saw 7 more cows come from behind of the Nile, but they were scrawny and thin. These cows stood beside the fat cows on the river bank. The scrawny, thin cows ate the 7 healthy, fat cows. At the point in the dream, Pharaoh woke up, but he fell asleep again and had a second dream. This time he saw 7 heads of grain, plump and beautiful, grown in a single stalk. Then 7 more grains appeared, but they were shriveled and withered by the east wind. And these thin heads swelled up, and 7 plump, well-formed heads. Then Pharaoh woke up again. Oh, it swelled up. The 7 plump, yeah. Pharaoh woke up and realized it was a dream. The next morning, Pharaoh was very disturbed by the dream, so he called for his magicians and wise men of Egypt. When Pharaoh told them his dream, not one of them could tell what they meant. Yeah. Finally, the king's chief cupbearer spoke up. Today, I'm reminded of my failure, he told the Pharaoh. Some time ago, you were angry with the chief baker and me, and you imprisoned us in the palace capital of the guard. One night, the baker and I had a dream. Each had a dream, and each dream had its own meaning. There was this young Hebrew man with us in prison who was a slave from the capital of the guard. We told him of our dreams, and he had told us each of our dreams meant, and everything happened just as he predicted. I was restored to my position as cupbearer, and the chief baker was executed and impaled on a pole. Pharaoh had sent for Joseph at once, and he quickly brought him from prison. After he shaved and changed his clothes, He went and stood before Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh then Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream last night, and no one here can tell me what it means. But I have heard that when you hear about dreams, you can interpret them. It is beyond my power to do this, Joseph replied, but God can tell me what it means and set you at ease. So Pharaoh told Joseph his dream. In my dream, in my dream, he said, I was standing on the bank of the Nile River, and I saw 7 fat, healthy cows come from the river and began grazing on the marsh grass. But he saw 7 sick-looking cows, scrawny and thin, come come up after come after them. I'd never seen such sorry-looking animals of all the land of Egypt. These thin, scrawny cows ate the 7 fat cows. But afterward, but after you would have known it, for they were still thin and scrawny as before. Then I woke up. In my dream, I also saw 7 heads of grain, full, full and beautiful, growing on a single stalk. Then 7 more heads of grain appear, but these were blight, shriveled, and withered by the east wind. And the shriveled heads swallowed the 7 healthy heads. I told these dreams to the magicians, and no one could tell me what they mean. Joseph responded, both of the Pharaoh's dreams mean the same thing, and God is telling Pharaoh in advance of what he is about to do. The 7 healthy cows and 7 healthy grains both represent 7 years of prosperity. The 7 thin, scrawny cows that came up and the 7 thin heads of grain withered by the east represent 7 years of famine. This this will happen just as I have described it to you, for God had revealed it to Pharaoh in advance of what he's about to do. The next 7 years will be a period of great prosperity throughout the land of Egypt. But after there will be 7 years of famine so great that the prosperity will have been forgotten in Egypt. Famine will destroy the land. This famine will be severe that even the memory of the good years will be erased. As as for having 2 similar dreams, this means that these 2 events may have been decreed by God, and he will soon make them happen. Therefore Pharaoh should find an intelligent and wise man to put them in charge of the entire land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh had appointed supervisors over the land and told them to collect 1/5 of every crop during the 7 good years, have gather all the food and produce all the good years in a head, bring the Pharaoh's storehouses, store it away, guard it, so the food in the city, and so there will be food in the city. That way there will be enough to eat when the 7 years of the famine will come to the land of Egypt. To the land of Egypt. Otherwise, this famine will destroy the land. Joseph's suggestions were well received by Pharaoh and his officials. So Pharaoh asked his officials, "Can I find someone else like this man, so obviously filled with the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God had revealed the meaning of the dreams to you, clearly no one else has intelligence or wise as you are. You will be in charge of my court, and all the people will take orders from you. Only I sit on my only I sitting at my throne. You will have high rank you will have a rank higher than yours." Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I hereby put you in charge of the entire land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh removed the string ring from his hand and placed it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him in the fine linen clothing and hung gold chains around his neck. Then he had Joseph ride the chariot reserved for the second in command. And whether Joseph went to command and shout, kneel down. So the Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of all Egypt. And Pharaoh said to him, I am Pharaoh, but no one will lift a hand or a foot, even in the land of Egypt, without your approval. Then Pharaoh gave Joseph a new Egyptian name, Zapafara Panaya. He also gave him a wife whose name was Eneseret. She was the daughter of the Panera, the priest of On. So Joseph took charge of the entire land of Egypt. He was 30 years old when he began serving the court of the Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph left Pharaoh's presence. He inspected the entire land of Egypt as predicted for the 5 years of the produce bonder crops. During those during those years, Joseph gathered all the crops grown in Egypt and stored the grain from the surrounding fields in the cities. He piled a huge amount of grains like sand on the seashore. Finally, he stopped keeping records because there was way too much to measure. During this time, before the first of the famine years, two sons were born, and Joseph and his wife Enema, the daughter of Puripha, the priest of On. Joseph named the older son Masuet, for he said, God had made me forget my troubles and everyone in my father's family. Joseph named the second son Ephraim, for he said, God had made me fruitful in the land of my grief. At the 7 years of the bumper crops throughout the land of Egypt came to an end. Then 7 years of famine began. Just as Joseph predicted, the famine also struck all the surrounding countries, but through Egypt there were plenty of food. Throughout Egypt there were plenty of food. Eventually, however, the famine spread throughout the land of Egypt as well. And when the people cried out for the Pharaoh for food, he told them, Go to Joseph and do whatever he tells you. So he ser- so with the severe famine everywhere, Joseph opened up the storage houses and distributed grains to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe throughout the land of Egypt, and people from all around came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph because of the famine was severe throughout the world. When Jacob heard that grain was available in Egypt, he said to his sons, Why are you standing looking around at another? I have heard there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy enough grain to keep us alive, otherwise we'll die. So Joseph's 10 older brothers went down to Egypt to buy grain, but Jacob wouldn't let Joseph's younger brother Benjamin go with them for fear some have harm might come to them. So Joseph's sons arrived in Egypt along with others to buy food, for the famine was in Canaanite as well. Since Joseph was governor of all Egyptian and in charge of selling grain to people uh, of all people, he it was to him that his brothers came. When they arrived, they bowed before him and their faces to the ground. Joseph recognized his brothers instantly, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. From where are you from? He demanded. From the land of Canaanite. They replied, We have come to buy food. Although Joseph recognized his brothers, they didn't recognize him. And remember, the dreams had excuse me. And he remembered the dreams he had about them many years before. He said to them, You are spies. I have come to see how vulnerable our lands have become. I have come to see how vulnerable our lands has become. No, my lord, they exclaimed. Your servants have simply come to buy food. We are all brothers, members of the same family. We are honest men, sir. We are not spies. Yes, you are, Joseph insisted. You have come to see how vulnerable our land has become. Sir, they said, there, there are actually 12 of us. We are, your servants, are all brothers, sons of a man living in the land of Canaanite. Our youngest brother is back there with our father right now, and one of our brothers is no longer with us. But Joseph insisted, as I said, you are spies. This is how I will I will test your story. I will swear my life to on Pharaoh that you will never leave Egypt unless your youngest brother comes here. One of you must go and get your brother, and I'll keep the rest of you here in prison. Then I'll find out whether or not your story is true. By the life of Pharaoh, if it turns out that you have you don't have a younger brother, then I'll know you are spies. So Joseph put them in prison for 3 days. On the third day, Joseph said to them, I am I am a God fearing man. If you do as I say, you will live. If you really are if you really are honest men, choose one of your brothers to remain in prison. The rest of you may go with grain for your starving families. But one of you must bring your youngest brother back to me. This will prove that you are telling the truth, and you will not die. N- To this they agree. Speaking among themselves, they said clearly, we are being punished because of what we did to Joseph long ago. We saw his anguish when they had pleaded for his life, but we wouldn't listen. That's why we're in this trouble. Didn't I tell you not to sin against the boy? Reuben asked, but you wouldn't listen, and now we have the answer for his blood. Of course, they do not know that Joseph understood them, for he had been speaking to them throughout the interpreter. Now he turned away from them and began to weep. When he recognized when he regained his composure, he spoke to them again. Then he chose Simon from among them and tied him up right before their eyes. Joseph then ordered his servants to fill the man's sacks with grain. But he also gave a secret instructions to return to each brother's payment on top of his sack. He also he also gave them supplies for the journey. So the brothers loaded their donkeys and the grain and headed home. But when they stopped for the night and one of them opened his sack to get the grain for his donkey, he found it has money on top of his sack. Look, he exclaimed to his brothers, my money has been returned. It's here in my sack. Then their hearts sank. Trembling, they said to each other, what has God done to us? When the brothers came to their father Jacob in Canaanite, they told him everything that had happened to them. The man of the govern the man who is the governor of the land spoke very harshly to us. They told us he accused us of being spies scouting the land, but we said we are honest men, not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of one father. One of our brothers is no longer with us, and the youngest is at home with our father in the land of Canaanite. Then the man of the governor who of the land told us, This is how this is how I will find out if you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers here with me and take grain for your starving families and go on home. But you must bring me your youngest brother back to me. Then I will know if you are honest men and not spies. Then I will give back your brother, and you may trade freely in the land. They had empty out their sacks. There in each man's sack was the bag of money that they had paid for the grain. The brothers and their father were terrified when they saw the bags of money. Jacob exclaimed, "You are robbing me. You are robbing me of my children." Jacob Joseph was gone. Simon was gone. And now you want to take Benjamin too? Everything is going against me. Then Reuben said to his father, "You may kill my two sons if you don't bring Benjamin back back to you. I'll be responsible for him," and promised to bring him back. But Jacob replied, "My son will not go down with you. His his brother Joseph is dead, and he is all I have left. If anything should happen to him on your journey, you would send this grieving white-haired man to his grave." Oh, snap. That Oh, well, reading that, all I could think about is just the movie. I mean it, because the entire time that I'm reading this right now, all I could just think is the movie right now. I know there are some differences between the movie and this version in the Bible, but just reading this it just reminds me so much of the movie right now. I'm sorry, I'm a little giddy right now. But, uh, well, pretty much we can see that or Joseph is actually doing pretty well. And most of us already know how the movie ends, but I'm a little curious what actually does happen in the story because I never actually seen what happens in the actual story of the Bible. I seen what happens in the movie where the family finally recognizes that it is Joseph, the son that basically they thought they lost, or the brother that they thought they lost. But as we can see, that even the harshest times that Joseph was pretty much in the harshest punishment, he was still he still pretty much had faith in God and was willing to do as much as possible for God. Now that's something that I just realized that this thing might be offset. I must have been moving it for a bit, but yeah. My only theory is that hopefully it does end like the movie, and I wonder what does happen after this, because like I said, this is I'm pretty much new to this Bible stuff. I'm pretty much new because this is the farthest I've ever actually read into Genesis. The furthest I've ever read before this was uh basically when they introduced Abram and Sarah or Sari. This is so pretty much for me this is all brand new. And I'm actually the more I actually start reading the Bible, the more I do these sections every single day, the more I actually become giddy and more interested in what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next? Oh, that's what's going to happen. Oh, so this is this story or this is that story. Every day, I basically am constantly like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen here. I wonder what's going to happen here. I can't stop thinking about the next paragraph, even though most of the time I'm like so lazy about it. I mean, it took me almost 3 hours to for me to just even focus on these chapters. I yeah, it took me 4 hours to focus on these four chapters. My brain was just like, you know what? Just read it without putting any like stuff in it. I mean, right now it seems like it's running its course. You're pretty much knowing what's going on and all that stuff. So the more I do this, the more I become more confident. The more I actually speak, because like back when I first started doing this from Genesis chapter 1, you saw how I was. I was a nervous wreck, throwing stuff everywhere. But now look where I'm at. I'm at the point where I'm able to actually speak my voice much more clearly, much more clarity. And this is sort of the change that I kind of wish for a long time that God would do with me in my life. Even though I still have really bad habits with laziness, it's mainly laziness and a whole lot of sexual immorality in my life. But other than that, I hope God can pretty much bring me closer to Him, and hopefully this brings someone at least closer to Him. Because this isn't just for me. This book is not just for me. It's for everyone. It's for everyone to know, read, and I do these reading sections because I want I want people to see that they're doing good. I want people to I want people to see that even me, someone that's somewhat somewhat actually knowledgeable about the Bible, even I basically struggle with words. I struggle with actually keeping up words. Back in high school, I probably, if you told me to read like a whole paragraph of Goosebumps back in the day, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you what's going on in the book. And here I am actually able to tell you, like, oh, what's going on here is Joseph is in Egypt after he's been sold to the traders, from the traders, and now he's basically in charge of the land of Egypt because God has blessed him with many, many gifts. Even the interpretation, God is showing him the interpretation, and you can kind of see that God is still blessing him even in the worst situations. And that's something that many of us need to understand is that you have blessings even if you're in the worst situations, even when you're in the worst time of your life, you have blessings. Don't you forget that. But other than that, I'm curious to see what's going to happen next and tomorrow. I'm curious to what's going to happen next. Is Joseph going to continue on doing what he's doing and kind of follow the story? And after that, what's going to happen is it going to go through his genealogy into the next chapter of Exodus, or what's going to actually happen? But other than that, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.